All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Citect 2018. We have put together a brief agenda that will first look at some industry trends that are leading to incidences caused by human error. Then we'll take a look at some of the new features in Citect SCADA 2018, show you a demo of 2018, and then wrap up with a summary and any questions. So if we just take a look, plants are becoming bigger, more complex, with more increased levels of automation. And central control rooms are also having to monitor remote sites. And this is leading to an increase of data volume that is coming across the operators' sort of SCADAs. And we still have to then deal with the staffing and education challenges. So the Abnormal Situation Management Consortium have basically compiled a summary of what is mainly to blame or cause of abnormal situations. And that is, as you can see in the graph, a human error of 42%, followed by equipment failure and then the process. So when we take a look at abnormal situation, or what causes that, the sort of meaning behind that is essentially a disturbance or series of disturbances within that process that is causing the plant to deviate from their normal state. And this can obviously have quite catastrophic effects if it goes unnoticed or does not get dealt with efficiently. So I do urge you to, or encourage you just to visit the ASM Consortium website that you see on the slide at the bottom, and they actually have a report of all ongoing incidents from quite a number of years that you can actually read up on. So we're looking at modernizing our operational interface to go from this type of mimic to this. And immediately what is quite obvious is that we are losing very distracting colors and bold text, and rather just focusing on the information that we need to deal with. So in that screenshot, we can see there are some instruments that are within range. We can see others that are getting very high. We have alarms, and the operator can very, very easily, his attention or their attention can be directed very quickly. So Citect has embarked on modernizing operations by employing the following features. Firstly, a context-aware workspace for high definition and ultra high definition resolutions. A comprehensive library which includes the new situational awareness objects. And alarm management, which covers the alarm indicators, the ability to shelve alarms, and providing cause and responses for each alarm. So you've heard me talk about situational awareness. There may be slightly different meanings as to what this essentially is, but if we just read there, it's the ability to identify and process, comprehend the critical elements of information of what's happening. And to basically summarize it even further, it's simply knowing what's going on around you. So the operator can, from the screen that they are looking at, straight away understand if their process is within operational limits. So if we now just take a look at the context-aware workspace feature, we'll introduce you to some new concepts. These are layout, context, and content type and autofill. So if we look at layout, essentially our page now is divided into zones or panes. These are a primary workspace zone, a faceplate zone, information zone, and the navigation zone. Essentially, this allows us to configure how the content is displayed in each of these panes. And these panes can be moved around, added, or even removed. The other new concept is context. Now, when the user selects a piece of equipment, then the autofill panes, such as your faceplate and your information zones, are then populated relating to that piece of equipment. So in this example, Crusher 1400 has been selected. So the faceplate and the information zone is then bringing the alarms, the operator interface, the trends, the interlocks, all relating to Crusher 1400. Within Citect's IDE, the content type and autofill is then configured within the engineering environment so that you define the content type that each page belongs to. And also that when the context changes, i.e. when different pieces of equipment are selected, then the system finds the right content to match. Our alarm page now looks quite different in Citect 2018. The new layout enables you to filter out alarms according to their priority. That's seen in the middle top, 1, 2, and 3. You can also filter alarms according to the equipment hierarchy that you're now presented to on the left-hand side. So you can expand and collapse the hierarchy and actually filter out areas of the plant as required. You can also do a partial name search, and the alarm-based navigation, it also enables you to right-click on an alarm and navigate straight back to the mimic or the area of the plant that this alarm relates to. While you're selecting those alarms in the list, you're also presented with any cause and response information that enables the operator to get a very clear indication of what consequences could arise if they don't take action on that alarm. The Citect Trend functionality has also been extended to utilize the new workspace, enabling the user to perform also a partial name search when filtering on tags. You also have the equipment hierarchy, which allows you to find the tags, and it shows the alarm priorities and the counts next to those pieces of equipment. When you select that piece of equipment, you're also presented with the attributes or items such as the process value or set point that you can quite quickly and efficiently just tick a box and it gets populated onto the trend page. The header bar that we see here provides the usual buttons to access the home, navigation and alarms and trend mimics. The navigation buttons are created automatically within the navigation zone and appear and will change depending on the actual user selection. The navigation zone also gives you alarm counts and filters on the alarm priorities as well for that area of the plant, as you see here. The information zone also provides the ability to configure multiple tabs that then are populated by the context of the equipment that's been selected. And quite importantly, while you're working within the context-aware environment, this part is automatically created. There's no engineering required. There's also a out-of-the-box faceplates, or you can also have the option to build your own custom faceplates using some of the library objects from Citect 2018. We know that Citect has for many years supported multiple monitors. However, in Citect SCADA 2018. It enables you to visually create your multiple monitor arrangement, whether that is with screens with different resolutions or just arranging them in portrait and landscape, a portrait or landscape way. What's more is that you will have maybe several control rooms or have other Citect workstations, so you can create multiple profiles within your project and then allocate them to various Citect workstations. If we now take a look at the sort of comprehensive library, Citect has continued to add to their already existing library to provide these situational awareness objects, some of which are shown here. So even though we have maybe 12 or so different types, meters, valves, polar stars, there are different combinations within each of those that would suit 80% of pretty much any type of instrument or motor that you'd be looking to use. So essentially what we're looking at is situational awareness. It's quite easy to look at these two reclaims and quickly identify that the one on the left-hand side is actually more in an optimal, within operational limits, as opposed to the right-hand side, which is already at the top. This is because situational awareness objects aren't all about just providing a grayscale type object. It's being able to provide context-aware information with that process variable, such as the alarm limits, the dead bands, the set points, etc. So here we see even the polar stars just below the left-hand side is basically operating very close to the set point, whereas the right-hand side, you can start to see that ST3 is starting to pull further away from its set point. Situational awareness objects aren't also just about, or sorry, should I say the alarm banner isn't just about being used on situational awareness objects. You can use your existing objects, whether they are bitmaps, JPEGs, and essentially you can implement these alarm borders to be able to leverage on the alarm capability. So when we're looking at how to elevate the operator's perspective, we can see as we walk through the different situational awareness symbols, how we get a better idea as to how that process variable is actually operating. We go from literally perception, from just seeing what the value is, to a little bit more comprehension of where in the engineering scale it's operating, to more of a projection, and we can start to answer questions very quickly as to, is it outside operational limits? How well is it being controlled? What will happen if no action is taken? Citect 2018 alarming has also been improved on delivering the functionality described within the guidelines laid out in EMUA 191. And for those of you who may not be aware, but EMUA is the Engineering Equipment and Materials User Association. Most of its members are sort of oil and gas and energy focused, but essentially it gives guidelines as to how to be more efficient on managing your alarms and allowing you to do carry out functions such as shelving, being able to easily prioritize your alarms. So when wanting to shelve an alarm in Citect, you have the option to either shelve until or shelve for. This gives you the ability to shelve for a certain amount of time or shelve indefinitely. You may also have the requirement to shelve until, say, shift change. As we see, most plants require all alarms to be back into operation on a shift changeover, so that the new operator understands what is actually happening in the plant when they take over. We touched on this briefly. So cause and responses. You can define up to 8 cause and responses per alarm, and essentially provides the operator with key information as to what response is typically expected of them, the response time, and the consequence of not actually taking any action. So we've come to the end of looking at some of the new features within Citect SCADA 2018. We're going to have a quick walkthrough on a live project. So from here, from the What's New page, we can quickly see what's changed, what's come about. You can see the navigation is busy populating the alarm counts in the priorities. We can click on different agitators, and we're presented with the faceplates associated to equipment. We're also now clicking on temperature sensors. Again, the faceplates change. We can navigate to a supply mimic. Click on temperature sensor 02. We see that there's a high alarm, and we can choose to shelve that alarm. We right-click on that alarm, and we choose shelve 4. And I can just shelve it for 1 hour. And when I shelve it, it basically changes and highlights the fact that I've shelved one alarm, and my next priority alarm is now showing as low. I now restore that alarm. I can go to my alarm page, and I can filter out on the priorities, 1, 2, or 3. I can also find the TS2 in the model, my temperature sensor. I can also start filtering out in the equipment hierarchy. And I can also choose to shelve alarms. I can look at the cause and responses. But if I wanted to, I could shelve the alarm from here, or I can navigate back to my mimic. I then look at the information pane, and I can look at the alarms, the trends. I have full functionality to change the timescale. I can make that trend populate into the main layout if I wanted to. I can look at any interlocks associated to that temperature sensor. We also provide, in the example project, a view of all the situational awareness objects, broken down into meters, drives, and valves, and mining symbols. Within Citect, you're also able to expose the attributes that allow us to change colors or themes. So I can quickly change it to a clear theme, or blue, orange, black, and all these attributes are all exposed and can be used in a runtime environment. So how can I benefit from Citect 2018, you may ask? Basically, if you want to use situational awareness objects, you'll be benefiting from all these that you see in front of you. But even if you don't want to use situational awareness, you are still able to benefit from all the features that we've shown you today in Citect SCADA 2018. So we're going to look at a few examples of maybe some older applications, older projects, and just look at how we could bring that into using the Citect SCADA 2018 features. So what we have here is a very old-looking mimic, or older-looking mimic. We want to be able to benefit, allow the operator to navigate from the alarm banner to the mimic, so as to quickly identify the source of the problem, also identify the severity, and we don't want, obviously, to change any of the graphic objects. To be able to leverage SCADA 2018, when you upgrade, you'll need to build your equipment model and to configure and set your page field for that equipment, and then categorize your alarms and add indicators. So it's not a complete rebuild. Quite easily you'll be able to benefit from the alarm navigation. In another example, if you want to migrate your Citect project to use the workspace feature, so this would be the sort of context-aware, you want to be able to essentially click on a piece of equipment, be presented with faceplates, alarming, and trend in context. What would be required within your project is to migrate your pages into so that they fit the workspace, and changing the template in the page properties, and then basically adding your selection adorner, which is a framework element within Citect 2018. So in summary, you can significantly reduce your engineering time, reduce your operator distraction, and increase your operational productivity and real-time decision-making with the features that we've shown you in Citect SCADA 2018. So these are our final thoughts: engineering efficiency, operator awareness, and productivity. And just before we end off, just a quick view on if you're considering upgrading to Citect SCADA 2018. We obviously ask this question first and foremost, if your system can afford downtime and loss of data. If you can answer yes to that, then you'll be performing an offline upgrade, and this mimics basically just shows you that no matter what version you're currently running on, you can basically migrate that and upgrade that to Citect SCADA 2018. If you do need to do an online upgrade, then as you can see, there are certain versions that you do need to step to. So if you're running an older 5 or 6 or 7, 7.1, you need to go to 7.2, Service Pack 5A before jumping to Citect SCADA 2018. Or if you're running 7.3 or 7.4, you need to use Service Pack 1 within Service Pack 4 before jumping. 2015 will migrate, and 2016 will migrate to 2018. We did do a webinar on upgrading Citect a couple of months back, so I encourage you to also look at those webinars to see how that was done.